I would say that one of the things I always think about is Jesus' admonition for us to love our neighbors, and even to love our enemies. And one of the ways that Jill and I have tried to do that is to kind of pull back on the idea that we need to express our political views through signage, particularly political signage in our yard. And
on our cars.
And on our cars, we've stopped putting stickers on our cars that are political. I mean, at least like politics political. We might have some social justice things on there or whatever, but we're not trying to go, have a candidate thing on there. We do have an old Kaufman for mayor on one of our old cars, but that was pre this decision. But I would say that kind of became a decision because in our neighborhood there's a lot of diversity of all kinds, and political, racial, SES, lots of different kinds of diversity. And one of our neighbors, we felt like it wasn't helping our relationship to necessarily have these things up. And so we decided we were going to stop doing it. And it felt to us like the response was from them too, to start pulling back on that too, because we respect each other and we want to be in relationships. So why not focus on the things that we love about them that are great examples of being Christians, and stop focusing on the things that separate us. The other thing I would say is that, and I'll toot Jill's horn on this because she is someone who draws communities together. In our community, like this very diverse community, she is someone who knows everyone walking by, and if she doesn't, then she introduces herself.
And my family starts rolling their eyes after a while.
But she knows everybody. She knows everybody who comes to the Love Shack on a regular basis and knows their names and talks about how they're doing, how is your child, how is the medical appointment, all the stuff. So she's engaged in people's lives in ways that I'm in awe of. I could do. I don't know why I don't, but this isn't my gift. But I mean, not that I don't know our neighbors, but she has a special ability to do that, and I definitely see Jesus working through Jill in that way.
When I feel annoyed by someone or angry with them or upset by something that they do, or they do something hurtful towards me, one of the things I've tried to do, and I probably started this 5 or 6 years ago, and I don't know if it was after, sort of evolved after having read Steve Nolt's book about the Amish and the shooting in Nickel Mines, Pennsylvania. And I think it started out with feeling like something really hurtful happened a number of years ago. And I got to a place where I started asking others to be forgiving for me towards the people that I needed to give forgiveness to, and to show the love of Jesus to them for me when I was in a place where I felt like I couldn't do that because I was hurt and maybe even a little bit traumatized by something that happened. And I find that kind of opens up a space to like really work without, I feel like without being fake. Like you don't want to be fake about saying I'm not, you don't want to say you're not angry, or you don't want to say that you're not hurt. And so I felt like that gave me space to work through the emotions and maybe some of the grief and loss that went along with the hurt. And so through that, then I got to a place where now what I try to do is I try to find my place of compassion for a person. So like even political figures, like, okay, like why are they acting the way they do? Or like one of the things that I've done a lot of thinking about this summer with the whole with all of the racial injustice that we're seeing, or like our eyes are being newly opened to it. It's not something new. It's just like we're awakening to some of these things. For people who don't get that, And for people who are, people who really have a hard time with the whole idea of Black Lives Matter, I don't know what I was doing. I think I was gardening, out weeding or something, and I had a thought all of a sudden, like, you know, there is probably a certain amount, maybe from a place of a counselor, I'm thinking about this, like grief and loss issues. You think about this sort of rose-colored glasses that people have worn, and what many of even our children were taught in school about what Martin Luther King Jr. did and how things were better since the 1960s. And I think a lot of people thought, you know, that was sort of the end of racism. And they had this idealized picture in their mind, or have an idealized picture in their mind of what America is. And to have all of a sudden all of this stuff, being bombarded by all of this stuff, my place of compassion for them is that they have something that needs to die. And that is this idealized picture of what America is to them. And they have to go through these stages of grief and loss. And so when I have conversations now with people who are angry about that, that's where I try to go to when I'm talking to them. Like, and that's my place of compassion for them. Like, they are grieving, or they can't see it. Like, you go through all the stages, right? The denial and all of the rest. So, okay, so are they in the denial stage right now? And will they move on to another stage? I don't know. I mean, in my mind, that's how I find my place of compassion for and show the love of Jesus to people who I don't agree with, on that issue at least. But I always try to find sort of that place where I can find something to kind of grab onto, where I can find something about them to love.
One of the things that really has impacted our family, and that I think about a lot from that book, is the Amish concept of joy. I don't know if you know this one or not, but the idea is that it's an acronym for Jesus, others, and yourself. And so you think about life in that way. It means putting Jesus first, others second, and yourself last. And we use it at potlucks with our kids so they don't run to the front of the line. I think about it a lot when, I mean, we'll say, "Hey, joy," and they know what that means. They need to get your butts to the back, or at least don't run to the front. I think about that joy several times a week, and then it fits in all kinds of situations where you think about not trying to resist the reaction or the impulse to think of yourself first, always, which is natural. It is natural.
Yeah, it's symbolic of many things.
It is.
The idea of a potluck.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I'm going to talk about a way that I feel like I see Jesus in others, and it has to do with the Love Shack and something that happened during shutdown. There's a little guy who lives in this neighborhood. He's in 5th grade at Chandler. Actually, he's going to the middle school this year, so hopefully I'll see him there if he comes to school. And he and his friend live in this neighborhood. He doesn't live in this neighborhood. He lives way far away, but he always was in this neighborhood during shutdown, just wandering the streets, wandering. Mom and Dad, I think, don't keep track of where he is. And I think have some significant addiction issues. So he kind of found a family here in this neighborhood that he wanted to be hanging out with. So he was hanging out with his friend, and for a while during shutdown we started seeing bags of sugar sprayed on the street, and eggs broken, and bags of rice strewn everywhere. And at a certain point I realized, okay, it's this gaggle of kids that are probably responsible for what's happening. And then I had a neighbor confirm, yeah, I saw them there at the Love Shack, and they were getting into it and making a mess. So at a certain point I saw them out there, so I ran out because I was up working in my office, which was in my bedroom at my computer. And I took the chance to run out to talk to the kids, and I had a conversation with, I learned what their names were, and kind of tried to make a connection with them about e-learning, how's that going, that kind of thing. And then I just had a conversation with them about, you know, our family and many of the families who come and bring food to the Love Shack. It's not just us who bring things, and people and churches bring food to the Love Shack because we love Jesus and we love God. And the reason that we share with others is because we believe that it's important to show love for our neighbors and for Goshen by sharing what we have with others who might not have as much as we have, and people who might be hungry, and kids who might come by here and who are hungry. And I just had a conversation with them about what the Love Shack was about, and those are the kinds of things I said, and they all looked at me and just kept nodding, you know, wide-eyed. They were very respectful, but they did admit that they were the ones who had been wreaking havoc. And so the next day, this was when the school buses were doing the whole drop-off of food. The next day, this little guy who I had seen wandering the neighborhood, I saw him bring his lunch that he had received from the school buses, and he put it in the Love Shack. So, I mean, I sat up at my desk again, and I cried. Since then, I've seen them put things in other times, and sometimes they come and check it for snacks. The two little boys especially, they'll come and check it for snacks, and I know when they're hungry.
Yeah, I said that, and I think they probably realized, oh yeah, we're hungry too. Like, we shouldn't be doing this because families need this.
Yeah, but it's that behavior stuff. I guess what I was going to say was that the one little guy, I saw Jesus in him when he brought that lunch and put his lunch in the Love Shack. And I came out and I talked to him and I said, "That is so kind of you. You're putting your lunch in the Love Shack." And he said, "Yes. I want to share my lunch with someone else." That was a pretty cool thing that happened.